Welcome to the Universal Monsters Podcast, the show that will reach through your headphones and give you a massage. I'm your host, Jake, author of The Devil's League and creator of hot quality content, and with me, as always, is the creator and host of Screenplay Archaeology, Pyramid Head, aka Bruce. How you doing?
Good. I'm now wondering if that's a happy ending massage.
We'll find out later. Every month, my fine co-host and I break down a bunch of Universal Monster news across movies, shows, theme parks, physical media, and anything else regarding these classic monsters. After that, we discuss the topic and the title of the episode. So, are you ready for some news?
Sure.
Scarce today, but that's okay because one of the news is the fact that we've seen Abigail. We're going to talk about it a little bit at length and then go into the main topic. So, the first piece of news is the one that, frankly, I'm pretty excited for. Lee Winnell's Wolfman. Obviously, what happened last episode was that we said, oh, it's still going to come out this year, and we recorded that. Then it got delayed. Then that episode uploaded, so we looked like idiots.
We looked like complete fools, and you wouldn't add a card to the YouTube video.
No, it was literally like the next day or something. I was like, fuck it, it's already slated. I don't care. But obviously it got delayed to 2025. Now watch, they're going to push it back to 2024 now that I've recorded this.
Oh, yeah. No, what they're going to do is they pushed it to January. I'm worried they're going to do a Demeter and push it from January to August or something like that.
Oh, don't even break my heart like that. We do have details now, and that's really the story here, not the fact that we get to see it later.
Can I just talk about the release date quick?
Oh, quick, yeah, please.
The thing that gives me pause is that they're putting it in January. And January horror movies almost always suck ass.
Yes, but I will point out that Invisible Man was like February. It was in that realm.
I was going to say that. Yeah.
So, you know, this is a same director, same company, same property, technically. So, you know, sounds really exciting.
I mean, our January Blumhouse movies especially tend to be not good.
I know. It takes someone as good as Lee Winnell to, like, you know, turn it around. So hopefully he does it again. But the main bulk of the story here is that we have details. You have the full description, which I'll lead into in a moment, but I'm just going to summarize and basically say, you were right a few episodes ago. It is about a man trying to protect his family from a werewolf on a full moon, but along the way, he gets bitten and is now stuck in a morally questionable situation. So, fresh from CinemaCon, what is this elaborate description?
Okay, these two paragraphs. CinemaCon got the very first look at Lee Winnell's Wolfman, which every source I see doesn't know whether Wolfman is one or two words. So that's kind of amusing.
The Wikipedia page says 2 words. They're usually pretty good, but...
Well, we have our thoughts on that.
Yeah, well, that's a future episode.
But it's still in the earliest days of shooting. Christopher Abbott plays a troubled father who is trying to protect his young daughter in a remote cabin in the woods. Ozark's Julia Garner, who is also now the Silver Surfer, apparently, seems to be playing the mother role as no other characters are shown besides these three. Abbott is extremely paranoid about a danger it seems to be stalking his family from outside of their home. It's teased that some kind of large dog, which Abbott is eventually bit by on the arm. As Christopher Abbott starts to slowly transform for the first time out of the frame, Julia Garner's mother character grabs her daughter away slowly in fear. There's a real sense of irony as Abbott is now becoming the very threat he is trying to protect his daughter from. It's implied that the story then takes a turn as mother and daughter versus father. This is a totally modernized take on Universal's classic Wolfman tale. Even though CinemaCon didn't get to see the creature, it is teased via a shadow that it could be more in line with the traditional design of the Wolfman walking upright. And that's it.
Okay, so we're talking like the classic Werewolf of London vibe with the spiky Wolverine hair. All right.
Or the afro that Lon Chaney.
Or the afro, because he's like a llama man from the 1941 Wolfman. But all right, that's interesting to know that they're going the more practical route. That makes sense for like a lower budget movie that probably won't look as good if you try and CGI it.
Just look at the big budget CGI Wolfman.
Exactly.
Where it will go from looking fine to looking like Looney Tunes.
Questionable, very questionable at best. But I don't know. I hope they show the monster. That's my main thing in like every freaking monster movie ever is you can't not show him. I get it. Jaws did it great, but Jaws is like, everyone's like, oh, Jaws did it, therefore we can do it. And Jaws is like the exception to the rule, all right? No one try to be Jaws. It doesn't work. I'm excited for it because obviously Lee Winnell gave me Invisible Man, which, as we did from episode 1, is like one of my favorite Universal monster movies, probably my favorite ever in the entire canon. So,
I had a
how
thought.
can I not be excited?
I had a thought about when it was initially going to be Ryan Gosling, because I had a thought about that because he actually there's a scene in the movie that makes me think he could be like Larry Talbot.
Mm-hmm.
You know the scene in La La Land where he's playing in John Legend's band. He looks like he wants to die in that scene.
He does. At several points in La La Land, I might add.
Yes.
But all I know is, and again, this is Wikipedia, so it's questionable at best, but he is listed as Larry Talbot, the Wolfman, of Christopher Abbott in Wikipedia. So
I mean, they could change that. Who knows?
They could change that. Maybe that's just some dude speculating. Who knows? I guess we'll just not know for a very long time. We have like 10 more episodes to go of this show before we even watch it. Oh, it's so sad to think about.
Yep.
That was my only piece of news because you said that you had other news as well before we get to Abigail and then the main topic. So
yes,
do you have anything to share?
I literally just got linked to this today. Is Elizabeth Moss talking about Invisible Man 2. And so just quoting from this bloody, disgusting article. Speaking with the Happy, Sad, Confused podcast this week, the Invisible Man star Elizabeth Moss notes that she feels very good about the sequel's development at this point in time. Blumhouse and my production company, we are closer than we have ever been to cracking it, Moss updates this week, and I feel very good about it. She adds, we are very much intent on continuing that story. And that's it. It's not really news, but I figured it was something.
If you think about it, like, if the sequel is dead in the water, she would say that. If the sequel were about to shoot tomorrow, she would still say that. So I don't know if that really gives us anything. You know what I mean?
Yes, exactly.
So I don't know. But obviously, The Invisible Man is a movie that cost so little and made such stupid money. And it made a lot of money despite the fact that it got hit with COVID shutting down theaters like in the middle of its run. It probably would have almost doubled its money if you look at the math, because it took a nosedive when COVID hit, and it still made stupid amounts of money. So I bet you a sequel would make way more than that.
And it's the only one of these newer Universal Monster movies that actually is making money.
Yes, absolutely. It's sad to think about, but it's true. I hope it gets made. I'm content and happy if it doesn't. It ended in a very nice, conclusive way, but I'd love to see more of it. You know, she's not dead. She's got stuff to do, so sounds fun. And then, of course, all I have here is the Abigail review, which I just have little notes about.
Yeah.
And then the big thing.
Yeah, we don't have to talk that much about Abigail. Do you want to get the thing out of the way first?
Why don't you start with the thing?
Well, the thing is that this was announced initially years ago as a Dracula's Daughter reboot. And then they later walked that back and said it was going to be more of its own thing. But there has always been that question in the back of my mind of, is this somehow going to be a Dracula movie? And I'll just say it's not.
It is definitely not. And you can definitely see, like, and again, we're interpreting here. We weren't there. We didn't write the movie. But, like, it looks like this was indeed that type of thing where Dracula was going to show up at the end. Should we get into spoilers? It's been out for a week, and I think if you really wanted to see it, you probably would have by now.
Yeah, this is the only spoiler we're going to talk about. Everything else I'm going to leave out.
Sure, that's a good idea. So, not Dracula shows up at the end.
Played by Ozymandias.
Played by Ozymandias, which I looked him up. That's the only thing I personally know him from.
I've seen him in a couple things. I've seen he's in a movie called Stoker, which is pretty good.
Oh, I thought that was a Dracula, and then I had to click it, and it was like, no, it's not about Bram Stoker.
No, I watched it because it was a Park Chan-wook movie, but that's it.
Yeah, no, he's a very talented guy from what I've seen, and he's great in this for the scene that he has. But this is clearly he was going to be Dracula, and they just were like, you know what, let's just change it to like this random name instead.
Yeah, we have I wonder if someone at Universal is like, we just had 2 Dracula movies last year, and they both bombed.
Yeah, but it's not like it's in the marketing or anything. Plus, they also left it open to make him Dracula, because he said he went by many names for a long time.
Yeah, and I thought he was going to say Dracula there for a second, and then nope, they just didn't continue that line.
Yeah, exactly, they just didn't put it in. I wonder if it was always there, never there from the start. They took it out late in. Maybe it was always like that. I don't know, but it feels like it was gutted of the Dracula name drop. So, I don't know. As far as the movie goes, I liked it. It's one of the better Universal Monster remakes, if I had to clarify. Like, genreify them.
Yeah.
Uh, it has some really dumb human characters. And
Yeah.
I liked the human characters, like they were
Yeah.
likable, but like the decisions they made, man, it's like god damn, like it's the horror movie problem of like why on earth when you know that this is the situation would you do this and go there and talk to that guy? Like I don't
There's literally two scenes where they're like, let's split up and do it that way, and it's like, okay, Scooby Doo.
And then there are scenes where like characters regress. So like Joey, the main girl, is talking to Abigail, and by the end of the conversation, Abigail kind of reveals that like she's evil. She's like, "Sorry for what's about to happen to you," and she drops like the act, and it's like a oh shit moment. And then later on in the movie, she goes back to Abigail. Abigail starts again playing as if she's like a small child who's just dumb, and then Joey just buys it. And I'm like,
Well,
did you not? Like, were you not there?
well, how I read that scene is that she was interpreting Abigail as telling them that her father was going to come after them.
I don't know, man. I feel like even a brain dead moron could look at that scene and go like, "Wow, that girl is not sincere and genuine." And then, of course, she's gonna say like, you know, "Oh, that guy's the bad guy," because it's like the most obvious "let's turn them on each other" situation ever. It's like, which one should you trust more? Think about if Dan Stevens really was the bad guy in that situation. Not yet, anyway. Like, would anything make sense up to this point? No. What if the girl is the bad guy? Everything makes sense.
Yeah, so, it's dumb because that's one of the problems I have with the movie is that she immediately blames him, and I'm like, so he killed that one person, and then like Olympic sprinted back to the other side of the house.
Yes,
like it's Army Hammer and Death on the Nile.
I killed everyone everywhere whenever I felt like it. But yeah, no. So there's some questionable things. I didn't like how. Like, I don't buy that Dan Stevens just suddenly hates Joey after killing a vampire. Because, like, they were, like, kind of frenemies, you know? Kind of not really, like, that mad at each other. Maybe they'd have, like, an angry line at each other. But then after he gets bitten, he's like, "I'm gonna make you kill your kid in front of you," or something. And it's like, what the fuck? Like, this isn't the same character, you know? It strikes me as, like, out of nowhere. So... I don't know.
It was
a lot of this movie.
It was still good.
Strange.
I had a lot of fun watching it. It did what it needed to do. It's had a couple. It was mainly smallish kind of problems here and there.
I agree. I'm kind of listing the only problems that I had because, like, or generally speaking, because everything else is pretty enjoyable. It reminds me of Renfield. It accomplished what it wanted to do. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, in that sense, I think it did all right. It aimed to be like a small-scale, one-location type of horror movie, and it had a vampire twist, and that was really fun.
These directors have done a similar movie about being trapped in like a mansion like this before, so...
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Ready or Not is kind of similar in that sense, but they're very different movies. The one thing I thought was actually kind of cool in a Universal sense was how they kept, bringing in the Swan Lake music.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I noticed that like from the start of the movie, and I was like, which is that the Mummy? The first Mummy that was in?
It's in the first Dracula, the first Mummy, and Murders in the Rue Morgue, I think is the third one.
Yeah, it's everywhere. It's everywhere, baby. And that's like, oh, it's harkening back to those classic movies. Like, I appreciated that.
Yeah, I was expecting that from Renfield because there's a scene in the trailer for Renfield, it's not in the movie, where Renfield's moving like Dracula shit. And there's a vinyl record of Swan Lake, but it never gets played. You don't see that bit in the movie. So I was like, oh, come on. But then this...
No, but it's funny that he has that.
Yeah.
It's funny that, like, just the idea that Dracula likes to listen to his own theme music. You know, that's exciting. But, yeah. So I don't know. Because, again, this is a quick review, not diving super deep into it. I would probably say, like, a 6 or 7 out of 10. Right in that realm.
7 or a soft 8, maybe?
It's just soft full of 8. Tropes. Like, I don't know. Like, there's just a lot of, like, classic, conventional, modern horror tropes. Like right when the movie gets started, there's that scene where Angus Young, rest in peace, is, like, fake scaring that girl, but, like, the movie plays is Dracula gonna come out of the corner? Oh, no! And it's just this, like, I'm trying to scare you because I'm being funny.
Okay,
and, like, that's in every single, like, conventional horror movie ever
very
made.
Awkward that the first guy in the movie to die is the guy who actually died.
Yes. That's very sad. But it follows the classic horror convention of, like, the least morally good person dies 1st, and like the most like moral person doesn't even die. Joey stays alive. So, yeah. I don't know. I think it was enjoyable. If you're into that kind of like horror movie stuff, give it a watch. It's definitely not bad.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's been a decent year for horror so far if you skip the Blumhouse movies.
Yep. And the blood volume was very funny. Like,
Yes.
it's a dead serious horror movie, but when sunlight hits the vampire for like half a second,
They go,
her
boom.
hand just blows up. Like,
You do anything to a vampire and they go boom.
literally anything. Like a ray of sunlight, like reflected from like a silver tray for an instant, touching just your face. Your whole body just blood bomb. It's a bomb of blood hit the whole house. It's like incredible. Like, oh my god. It's gotta be the most instant and violent reaction to sunlight that vampires have ever been in media.
Yes.
Maybe ever.
I'm
So that's pretty funny.
sure there's some versions of it where it's pretty extreme, but I've not seen every vampire movie.
That's true. I have, sir. So
Probably the least extreme is in the Werner Herzog version of Nosferatu, where Dracula gets touched by sun and he just kind of goes "Ugh," and falls over.
I've only seen the classic Nosferatu. I've heard mixed things about the quote remake.
The remake's pretty good.
Interesting. I'll have to watch the remake before I watch the remake.
Yeah, do a trilogy review.
It is a trilogy of one film, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Damn.
And then there's
All
the
right,
weird
well-
there's the weird meta movie about making Nosferatu where Willem Dafoe plays the vampire.
I love that stupid movie. That is a great
Shadow of the
movie.
Vampire is so good.
It's so good, and Willem Dafoe is killing it.
Oscar
Literally and
nominated
figuratively.
performance.
As it should be. What the hell won that year? What beat him? Come on.
I don't know
Ridiculous.
2000 movies that well.
I'm looking it up.
Look it up.
I'm looking it up right now. But in the meantime, talk about Abigail for like 1 second.
No, Abigail, it's just a fun time. Like, you're not going to regret watching it if you do. It's a good vampire movie. It's one of the better ones out there.
Traffic? Sorry. Benicio del Toro in Traffic.
Oh, that makes
beat
sense.
him.
Traffic was big at the time.
Traffic was big. It makes sense because he's popular and stuff.
Traffic's
He
really
didn't do
good.
bad. I like Traffic, but like, no, Willem Dafoe deserved that easy. Come on. But whatever. Oh, and Joaquin Phoenix and Gladiator that same year also lost.
Oh,
to
yeah.
Traffic.
Well,
That's
you being the
bullshit.
Gladiator fanboy.
I know, I'm the biggest fan.
I
of it.
love Gladiator, but
Willem Dafoe still should have beaten Joaquin Phoenix.
Yes.
I'm just saying. But whatever. All right. So, anything else about Abigail, or are we going to move on to the main?
it's straightforward. I think it's cool how it's like an update of like the old Dark House kind of movie, which is also a Universal film, but of like people in like a mansion staying the night. Like, it's a
I
very
haven't seen that
classical.
one.
There's even an Agatha Christie reference to "And Then There Were None," which was pretty cool.
It's like a plot moment too. It's not just a reference. But yeah, I appreciate that, and I haven't seen that movie, Old Dark House, but I've seen like the 1920s ones, like Cat and the Canary and
Dude,
stuff.
yeah, no, Old Dark House it's James Whale directing, so it's pretty good.
Sounds good. Yeah, I gotta check it out. But yeah, I don't know. I appreciated it for what it was, and I probably won't watch it again, except for the commentary that eventually we'll have to do.
Oh.
So
Are you going to
Okay.
include this in Monsterthon? Because it's not really.
Yeah. It's a Universal vampire Dracula's daughter inspired loose thing. Yeah. So, I mean, the definition has always been broad. It's like 17 different franchises all together, kind of.
All those Scorpion
So-
King movies.
Every single one, don't you know?
I still
yeah,
haven't seen 2 of those.
How dare you? First of all, how dare you?
I'm going to be sick if you ever want to do that episode.
Look, I think it's time to get to the title topic.
Yes,
All right.
please.
All right, so it was called Pitch Your Own Crossover. Now, we're going to create our own, we each have 3, our own hypothetical movies that could or would have existed in Universal's canon. We can cast anybody, living or dead, any roles living or dead. Roles aren't alive. Any roles, any characters, any if we want to go crazy with like directors, we can pick those. If not, whatever. But any part of the franchise, it can follow continuity of certain ones. It can not. It can be its own thing. It can reboot everything. It can never. But we're gonna pitch our own crossover for Universal Monsters, and there's only one rule. it has to include in the title either meets, versus, or house. So, we had a discussion before the show started. We don't know each other's, but we did both reveal to each other that our three that we've each picked, each uses those once. So, I think that's really funny. So yeah, I have three. I'm really proud of my three, and I don't know. Do you want to start or should I start?
Okay, I'll start. This one is going to. I'm going to start with here. Let me get my mouse fell asleep.
Yeah,
Hold on.
please, yeah. Oh, I asked guys. I asked Kieran Head to make a one sentence log line for each one. And then we'll just talk about it.
I made short paragraphs.
That's fine. My sentences are really long. They're basically paragraphs.
So here's mine. This is my number one, and I'm saving the title for last, and you'll know why. So I'm just gonna say, so the way I wrote it here is, I'll get the shit post out of the way first. This is going to be a modern movie in the spirit of Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein, with a comedy team meeting the monsters. So Frankenstein, Dracula, the Wolfman, and maybe a few cameos from other characters. And as in that movie, the monsters are going to be mostly played seriously, barring a gag or two. The humor comes from the comedians, and so the title I picked was Key and Peele Meet Frankenstein.
That's a really funny idea. That's a really good idea. I like that.
You can do a joke where, like, the Frankenstein monster is made out of both black and white parts.
wait, yeah, that does write itself. I had a feeling there, because once you started talking about it, I was like, that's why he's holding about the title. It's going to name drop the comedians. I thought you were going to go Dwayne Johnson and Kevin Hart meet the
No, God,
meet the
no.
monsters. Key and Peele meet Frankenstein. That's not bad. It's got to be like, 5 or 6 years ago, like before they started doing like their own things, like Get Out, like back when they were in their Keanu era, you know,
Playing with Fire. If anyone knows
Yes.
The Predator 2018.
Oh, no. But yeah, no, that's really funny. I would enjoy that very much. It would be the kind of movie that I would watch and commentate on, and I would guess that I would give it like a 5.
Yeah, it would probably be a 5.
It is a shit post, but high key, Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein was kind of a shit post in the day, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it was a really good one.
It was, which shocks me. But yeah.
And then none of
That's
the
not
other
bad.
crossovers even reached that level.
Nowhere near.
Invisible
Nowhere near.
Man almost got there, and then no.
It nosedove at the end of that film. I wish it ended better. But yeah, I don't know. I like Key and Peele meet Frankenstein. That's a great idea. What if I told you that my first crossover also ends in the words meets Frankenstein?
Go right ahead.
Okay, so Dracula meets Frankenstein.
Gotcha.
So this one is only a sequel to 1931's Dracula and Frankenstein. It ignores everything else. So it has Béla Lugosi and Boris Karloff reprising their roles as their iconic monsters. It is a direct sequel to both films and sticks religiously to the continuity of both of them, with the story thematically revolving around death, resurrection, and good versus evil, which of course climaxes in an iconic battle between both of them. So
Sounds good.
That, to me, that sounds way better than whatever sequels were being made, except for Bride. I like Bride quite a bit. But the Dracula's Daughter, Son of Dracula, Ghost of Frankenstein, I feel like this would have been a much better idea than where they went with Meets the Wolfman and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, plus it could have stayed serious. It wouldn't have been a joke. That sounds cool too.
Mm-hmm.
That's just me.
I don't know why they didn't do that. But I guess because by the time they did the crossovers, the Frankenstein series had already kind of gone downhill a little bit. Like, they did the dumb brain transplant bullshit in Ghost, and it's like...
Well, you gotta remember that Meets Wolfman was like the first crossover in movies, maybe ever. Like, it was kind of the first time that they did like a Freddy versus Jason or anything like that. So that was 1941?
43.
43? Jesus. So that's like 12 years after Dracula and Frankenstein's first movies.
But
they didn't even think about doing that.
And I guess by the time you got to that point, the Wolfman was kind of a bigger name than Dracula in these movies.
Right, exactly. Dracula's still like top dog, but like he kind of faded. I mean, he didn't even appear in his own sequels, which is
no, it was his
beyond
kids.
Me. Ridiculous.
He was
not even his kids.
He was a wax dummy in Daughter.
He was just kind of there, which was ridiculous.
And then he was Lon Chaney Jr. in Son.
Sadly.
I like your countryside.
Yeah, that's my first crossover. Yours is definitely funnier. I like how they both almost have the same title, which
Yes,
is just Meets Frankenstein.
Well, you want to hear a title that sounds similar?
Oh, sure. Hit me.
My number 2 is Frankenstein versus Dracula.
Woo! Let's go!
So, it was almost Frankenstein meets Dracula.
But you had already... Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
But then I messaged you saying, did it have to be meets or house? And you said versus was good.
Versus is in there because the title I want needed versus, and I was like, I gotta add one in there. I gotta amend the rules.
But mine is more writing it like a Universal movie. So here I'm describing it as, in true Universal tradition, Dracula's back from the grave after the first movie of no explanation. Chasing Harker and Van Helsing across Europe. And they stumble into the village of Frankenstein. They find the ruins of the Watchtower Lab, which of course blew up at the end of Bride. And in the rubble,
so Bride is in continuity. Okay.
Yeah, and in the rubble, they find the comatose Frankenstein monster. The bride, of course, is nowhere to be seen in Universal fashion. And lightning from a freak storm revives the monster just in time to battle with Dracula in the last 5 minutes before an impromptu earthquake collapses the ruins on top of them, ending the movie.
I wonder how the fight would go. Is it a strangle competition?
Probably.
Oh, man. Action back in the day was so tight.
Frankenstein just fights a bat.
Yeah. But it's just like an actor holding a prop bat and they're just like, and like throwing it into walls and stuff.
Well, yeah, that's the least. That's my second one.
That sounds delightfully campy. That sounds like a cult classic in the making. Like, it would come out, critics would not give it good reviews, but then the real Universal Monster fans would be like, bro, this is where the series changed. You know, like that. It'd be one of those. So, that sounds fun as hell. Dracula who was first, Dracula or Frankenstein in the title?
In mine, it's Frankenstein.
Oh, okay. All right. I guess he has more films, so, you know, you put him first.
Well, it's because it was originally Frankenstein meets Dracula, and just replacing the Wolfman with Dracula. You know how it's kind of similar in structure?
Yep.
But then I changed it to versus because you said versus was okay. I didn't want to do the same thing twice.
That's understandable. Yeah, my second pick is it's also one that like could have happened, you know, like in the day. Like this could have been a thing. But I'm putting this at the end of all of the meets. Like after it meets the mummy, meets everything. Like this is I'll tell you the title in a minute. I'm also going to build up the crowd of this one. So this is like the piece de resistance to really send off the monsters. Because the monsters, people call Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein the send-off to the monsters, but after that they made like a bunch more movies, and I feel like you should have sent all that off. Like, end that. So, taking place days after Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, we return for one more wacky adventure with the duo, where Dracula has survived his fate from the end of the movie.
Because he
commands the Wolfman, because he would, and commands the Wolfman to bite Abbott and turn him into a werewolf, forcing Costello to find a way to bring him back, incorporating the help from Frankenstein monster, Vincent Price's Invisible Man from the boat, and many other classic monsters along the way. This is Abbott versus Costello. So it's like you team up. You get everybody. So freaking Costello has to get all his people that he met and got scared by in that movie to stop Abbott from being a wolfman.
So is there still going to be a running gag about Costello being the one who gets all the pussy?
Yeah, of course. It's going to be written by the writers back in that day. Except, so I'm going to keep it like 90% identical to how it would be back in the day with like all of the campy directing and like the music being overbearing and stuff. But like the last like 10 minutes, I'm going to put back in time the directors of John Wick to do all the fight scenes. So it's like the most intricate, choreographed, amazing to watch action ever. But it's just out of place. That's exactly how I imagine Abbott versus Costello. It's like a kung fu battle. It's gonna be awesome. So this is what should have been made. This is like the actual end, and I think it would have been much better. So that's how I feel about that.
Oh, okay. So you ready?
Oh, I'm so ready for your third.
Okay, so let me ask you a question first. Who was the one major monster who was left out of all the crossovers?
The Mummy.
Yes, so this one's called House of the Mummy. And it keeps all the first movies as canon and Bride of Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm.
And so after the end, this is just me writing a couple paragraphs of fan fiction here, so just bear with me.
Oh, sure.
And so after the ending of the Mummy 1932, the Nubian servant brings Imhotep back from the dead. Let's just say they made a copy of the scroll.
Yeah, why not?
And so
They wrote it down again.
Helen Grosvenor, his reincarnated princess, she has returned to England, but she's still dealing with like some psychological issues, dealing with her previous incarnation having returned, and so she's checked into the Seward Sanitarium to help deal with that. However, the spirit of Dracula is still lurking in the ruins of Carfax Abbey and lures Helen to his remains, and she bleeds herself out, reviving the vampire. And Imhotep arrives too late and swears vengeance on the blood-drinking count.
That is a really good idea, and that also would have been a much better send-off than the Abbott movies. So now I wish that got made. Is that a sequel to all the first?
It's the first movies, but I'm not done.
Oh, my mistake.
3 years later, and this is going to sound kind of similar to Abigail. I swear I didn't plan this. This has kind of been kicking around in my head for a couple years.
Sure, yep.
But Dracula has settled in a remote corner of Europe, and one night he receives an invitation to visit a new neighbor who has moved into an old mansion nearby. And said neighbor is the resurrected Imhotep, who has taken the mansion, which is incidentally riddled with secret passages and trapdoors, and converted it into a trap for Dracula, where the doors and windows are all sealed with things that Dracula can't deal with, like silver, garlic, like maybe use of some magic on Imhotep's part, that he won't be able to escape. Where it gets interesting is Imhotep has also recruited some help in case things get difficult, and he has reached out to the Frankenstein monster, buying his assistance in exchange for attempting to revive the bride who has been in a death-like coma since the lab explosion. And Dracula has his own ace up his sleeve in the form of Larry Talbot, who came back. Let's just say the moonlight brought him back.
Sure, yep.
If I was writing a more detailed version, we get there. And he has agreed to look after the Count's coffin and affairs during daylight in return for Dracula keeping the Wolfman at bay during the full moon with his, like, wolf control powers. And so this basically, I kind of crapped out here. A long night ensues, and eventually it would end with, the Frankenstein monster and Talbot putting their differences aside to take down their evil hosts. So you'll get Frankenstein versus the Wolfman, and the Mummy versus Dracula, and then they both turn against their masters.
Oh, that sounds so fun. Can I just say, it is very satisfying, like, to hear a pitch from someone writing something where they just go, and then here I just kind of crapped out, but, like, basically...
I decided I didn't need a full fourth paragraph. Like, the basics were there.
The basics were absolutely there for such a fun, amazing movie. You'll notice that... Well, first of all, before I move on, let me just get to yours a little bit. This is an awesome movie. This absolutely should have been made. This was a much better idea than all 2 House movies, 1 Meets movie, and all the Abbotts meeting everybody. This was a much better idea. This would have been so much better, and it would have paid off a lot of what made those original movies great. The reason I laughed when you said House of the Mummy is because that is also my title.
Wow! And he does have a house in this one, unlike Dracula and House of Dracula.
I didn't write like a beat-by-beat plot, but I have a 1-sentence log line.
Okay.
When evil Tom Cruise from the end of The Mummy prepares to destroy the entire world, Prodigium resurrects every monster from all the other reboots to destroy it, including 4 Draculas, 3 mummies, 2 Wolfmen, and Invisible Elizabeth Moss. This is a Return of the King Endgame style follow-up to conclude all of the reboots at once. Everything from 1979 Dracula to Brendan Fraser's Mummy to Lee Winnell's Wolfman or Invisible Man, and both are all canon. Dracula keeps reincarnating and getting vanquished with new rules each time. You can absolutely write them all together. And every character is immortal, basically. So if the actor can't come back, most are buried under heaps of makeup anyway. Do it.
Are we bringing back
Do it.
the Weaving Wolfman?
Why not? Ask everybody. Ask every single actor associated with those movies that played a monster. But, like, yeah, if I have the power to, like, play, pretend here for a minute, yeah, they're all back. Every single one. Everything's canon. Since the classics ended and the reboot started with 1979 Dracula, every single version of every single Universal monster that Universal has made, this is a sequel to all of it. Maybe it's like a trilogy, because it's got a lot going on.
It's like a
House of the
multiverse.
Mummy trilogy. Yes. So you got House of the Mummy Part 1, 2, like Fellowship, Two Towers, Return of the King. House of the Mummy trilogy, right? And you conclude everything. You make, like, your Endgame, your Infinity War Endgame saga.
Your Quantumania, Kang Dynasty, and Secret Wars.
Yes. All at once, baby. Every single bit. This is we're not rebooting anything. This is what the characters deserve. All right? This is what should exist. At least the originals got Abbott and Costello beat Frankenstein. It is not a perfect crossover conclusion, and it didn't even conclude anything, but at least they got that. The reboots have nothing but more reboots. So this is what they deserve. I'm so passionate about this.
Hell, bring the Creeper in.
And then, because Universal has the rights to, I assume, all of these still, this could be their Dark Universe. You package this and sell it as, like, a 20-disc copy collection, right? The Dark Universe, you got everything from Frank Langella Dracula up to this movie here, and it's like 15 different movies.
Which Scorpion King?
All of them. They're all canon. They're all canon. Marvel, the MCU's recasted actors. Scorpion King just did it 5 times, so who cares? So, they're all canon. And maybe they show up. Maybe it's a Scorpion King No Way Home where every single actor shows up as their Scorpion King and they fight too. This is what I want so bad. So anyway, yeah,
So the hierarchy of power in the Universal Monster Universe is about to change.
It's big changed. It's very largely changed. So, for the better. So, if in case it was not clear, the Devil's League started out as this idea many, many years ago. I was like, what would I do if I could do everything? And I would just wrap it all up and conclude everything. And then obviously I was like, well, instead of moving to Hollywood and spending like 10 to 15 years trying to break into the industry and then probably not getting my dreams accomplished, why don't I just write a book? I did that. So, yeah, I feel so strongly about this. This is what the series deserves, and it would make my little heart sing if they did that.
So all the reboots.
Imagine like Hugo Weaving Wolfman from the end of Wolfman coming in to stop the Van Helsing werewolf, because Van Helsing's a werewolf, except he got cured. Maybe there's more werewolves. Maybe Van Helsing shows back up again. Bro, he's hunting the monsters. That's a great way to start it. Freaking immortal Hugh Jackman in modern day is killing like the Mummy.
Yeah,
Rex.
Yeah, he is an archangel.
Yeah, or whatever that line was. I don't know. There's so much here. There's so much like potential to do this with, and every single one of those stupid reboots like leaves it open. Like, we're gonna make 10 more sequels, baby, and they never do. So this is your 10 more sequels. So whatever.
Charles Dance is gonna show up.
Yeah, bring him back, baby. Get them all in there. Ask everybody. It's a good idea. I'm just
Jake
saying.
Johnson.
I love that we both had House of the Mummy, but they're for completely different eras of Universal monsters.
Introduce a new rebooted Creeper.
Oh my god, that'd be so fun. Yeah, because I need more characters. That's the issue with my pitches. I didn't have enough. I wish I had more. But,
Get Russell Crowe back.
I think of the 6 presented, I'm biased. I like both House of the Mummies the best, but if I didn't have to pick those, I would say Key and Peele meets Frankenstein is a pretty good idea.
Oh, thank you.
Like, that just should have been made straight up. Like, that would have been awesome. Especially if they did kind of what I want, which is include the reboots in there and just make fun of those guys.
Yeah, you could do that. You could really do anything.
Yeah, I mean, Key and Peele meets Frankenstein being made in, like, imagine if it was, like, in the Dark Universe. So, like, they're like, wait, Dracula came back in 2014, and then Prodigium killed him in 2017? He lasted, like, 3 years? Are you kidding me? That'd be pretty funny to point those things out. So
they put the monster in charge of the monster hunters.
Yeah, that was the smartest, the dumbest move they ever could have made in their lives.
Johnny Depp showed up and said aloha and then left.
Yes, which is only something the audience will get if you listen to Screenplay Archaeology, which is about the Dwayne Johnson Wolfman script.
Oh,
which
yes,
does
that
exist.
scene.
Yes, of course, the classic, iconic Dark Universe scene. These are some great crossovers. I almost
Yeah.
wish we made more.
Oh, God, I don't know if I could come up with any more.
What was the ones that like I feel the strongest about? Like those are, in my opinion, genuinely good ideas.
I mean, I suppose I could have come up with a more serious approach to Dracula versus Frankenstein.
Nah, well, that's what I did with Dracula Meets Frankenstein, don't you know?
Yeah.
So you had the fun version where they just duke it out. Well, all right. I guess the moral of this episode is go see Abigail. It's a pretty good movie, and it's almost as good as all 6 of our potential crossovers here that we've invented off the top of our heads.
You know, there was a piece of news I forgot to mention because I didn't actually get around to reading it, and that's that the first issue of the Creature from the Black Lagoon comic is out.
You know, I would have included that in the news if I were actually reading the comic, but like I want
forgot.
to read the Dracula one first. I want to read the Frankenstein one. You know, I don't want to just read the random one. I think they're gonna do a Dark Universe. I think they're doing it,
Maybe.
but good.
They're not going to call it that.
No, definitely not. That name is it's a punching bag at this point.
I still find it funny that Warner Brothers almost sued them over that name because they wanted to use it.
That was hilarious because Dark Universe is not a good name for the Justice League Dark movie anyway.
Nigga, neither is Justice League Dark.
Unusually, we're done early, aren't we?
Yeah.
We've finished our ridiculous pitches, which was way more fun than I ever could have imagined doing. The fact that we had the same title for our final pitches.
Yeah, that was great. That worked out perfectly.
And we did the same thing with 2 different sets of franchises, which is really just amazing.
Yeah, I stress we did not talk about this at all.
That's true. We did not. That's why, like, when you said that, like, that was my genuine reaction when I heard you say that title. Like, no fucking way.
I mean, my whole
yeah.
thing started with, like, you know, they left the Mummy out of the crossovers.
That's a big deal. Like, he's one of the most popular ones back in the day. They made 5 stupid movies.
Well, they made one good one.
They made one good one, 4 sequels, a reboot, and then 5 spin-offs about a character that did not exist. With 4 different actors.
Who look nothing alike.
Whatever, man. Can I just say that, and I'm just going to reveal it now, but we had a few technical issues at the start of the show. The initial thing when I introduced the show was going to be Welcome to the Universal Monsters podcast, the show dedicated solely to discovering why 5 Scorpion King movies were made. So...
No one knows that, Clint. No one knows that.
We're going to hopefully try and get a guest. I will not reveal who they are yet, but we're in discussions right now. It looks pretty promising, and if not, it'll probably be the episode after that, so won't reveal anything just yet, but it's going to be very exciting. We're probably going to be talking about old sequels and debate if they're good or not. So that'll be its own exciting subject. They're not.
No, it's not a good movie.
Oh, Just Bride. That's the good one.
I like Son.
I don't like Sun. Don't like Sun.
Yeah, we can have that debate later on.
We can, and we definitely will. So, catch you guys next month, not week, for the next episode of this wonderful show.